Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Money and More Network, where we talk about whatever success means to you. My name is Wendy Cassera, and I am the owner of Taxpectations, and I am hosting this show where we talk about money, the IRS, success, and all kinds of other different wonderful things to help you along your way in life. The Success Place is about your success. Taxpectations is a bookkeeping, accounting, and tax firm. You can find us all over the United States. You can find us all over the internet, and of course on all those wonderful social media sites: Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and because there's so many of them. I don't think I'm on all of them though. But if you Google me, you can find me, Wendy Cassera, and Taxpectations. Either one has lots of entries, so you can find me anywhere you need to be. Let's see. We're going to talk today about taxes, what's happening with the IRS, tips to save you money on your taxes, and always so much more that is going in the world. I always like to start my show with a quote, and we're going to start with a couple quotes today. Pele, and I liked it. He's the guy, the soccer guy, you know. Success is no accident. It is hard work, perseverance, learning, studying, sacrifice, and most of all, you need to love what you are doing. I thought that was kind of really super cool. I like it. I saw another one. Be somebody who makes everybody feel like a somebody. Kind of an interesting way to put things on. And finally, sometimes the smallest step in the right direction ends up being the biggest step of your life. Tiptoe if you must, but take the step. One of the things I really, really like, I've been talking to Rita Garnto of Life Needs in Charlotte, North Carolina. Awesome lady with a great business. She talks to people about just taking those small steps, that simple, easy things that you can do in your life to get going. So she's been talking to me. We started doing taking extra steps and doing things like, parking on the far side of the parking lot and walking to the store, extra steps here and there and everywhere. Kind of really super cool. So I really like that. But it's very true about your business as well. If you just take a few steps, just take a step. Take one step. Change one thing. Move ahead just one little bit. And all that put together adds up. So that's where we're going to go. So, talking of steps and where they are and where they're going, let's get right into the IRS information, news, all that other kind of stuff. The IRS announced on July 31st that they are creating a division to make early contact with employers who are falling behind in their payroll taxes. So if you look like you're going to owe a balance at the end of the quarter, the IRS is going to call you and say, hey, you should pay your taxes now. You're going to owe money. It's one of the few things that the IRS is really cracking down on as far as businesses are concerned is payroll taxes. A lot of people don't realize that not paying your payroll taxes is actually federal fraud. And the IRS, you've taken that money from people's paychecks, and it's your obligation to pay the IRS, and of course, along with everything else they want paid. But really, really important that those payroll taxes get paid. From my understanding, rumor has it in the tax world that they're also going to be coming up with an initiative to get people who are behind on their payroll taxes to be able to get them caught up to date so they can stay up to date. That's the biggest problem with getting behind on stuff, isn't it? I mean, that happens to all of us in one way or another on something. Once you get behind, it's really a challenge to get caught up. I mean, once you're in the bottom of the well, digging your way out is a lot harder than just jumping out when it's a little bitty dent. So, yeah, if we can find easy and simple ways to get caught up so that we can start fresh, that would be awesome. And I'm really working with a lot of clients on that. So if it's something, especially with the payroll taxes and stuff, if that's something that you're having some issues with or you owe some back payroll taxes, please give me a call. and I will chat with you. I do talk about being all over the United States. I have clients on both coasts and in between. If I can't visit you in person, I love to do the Skype calls and really sit down and go over with you what your needs are. The age of technology allows me to work from anywhere and with anyone else who is anywhere. I actually have clients in Germany and New Zealand now, so I'm becoming international. Been an international speaker for a while, but it's kind of cool. Anyways, back to what we were talking about. If you have these kind of payroll tax delinquencies, please do let me know, and let me help you get those straightened out so you can get back on the straight and narrow and back into the business of business. Another thing that happened this last week in the IRS, this was actually government funded. The short-term highway funding extension passed by the Senate on Thursday contained several important tax provisions. The bill was passed by the House of Representatives on Wednesday, and the President Barack Obama signed the bill into law on Friday, July 31st. Now, what does a short-term highway funding extension have anything to do with you? Well, the funny thing is when they do these kind of things, they always add other stuff. And this time, the other stuff is going to affect a lot of people. One of the things is that the bill modifies the due date for several common tax returns. For instance, the big one is partnership returns. Partnership returns in the past have always been due on April 15th along with personal tax returns. In the future, going forward, starting next year, those partnership returns are going to be due on March 1st. So you're going to have to get those done a month earlier. Then what they did is they turned around and they took the C corporation tax returns and made those due and payable in April. And one of the reasons that they did this was because a lot of the companies, big C corporations, have subsidiaries, partnerships, LLCs, etc., underneath them, and they were not able to turn their tax returns in on time because they were waiting for the tax deadline for the subsidiaries and LLCs and all that other stuff. So they have not changed it for a regular LLC, but for partnership returns, due date is March 15th, and that's for calendar year partnerships. This also changes the extension process just a bit, but these all right along in conjunction and all apply to tax returns for tax years beginning after December 31st, 2015. So they also, let's see what else happened. This new short-term highway funding extension, I have to remember what it's called, affected income tax returns for estates and trusts, giving them a shorter period of time to get things done. It also discussed the fact that there must be consistent basis reporting between estates and beneficiaries. One of the big things that happens a lot of times is your relative passes away, leaves you a house. How do you determine what the house is worth for the purpose of your tax return? And so they're wanting, the IRS is saying that the estate tax return and the people who are handling the estate are required to do better reporting and giving you information for that you need to have for your own personal tax return and deciding whether you're going to sell it or keep it or what you're going to do with it. So that's it. They just passed it into a law. They have to give you better information. So that's kind of really super cool because that will help you. Another thing that happened with this funding extension, the short-term highway funding extension, to get used to these things, is that it is also requiring that new information appear on the mortgage information statement. So usually what happens is, like right now, if you paid $600 or more in mortgage interest in a single year, they send you a mortgage interest statement. And on it, it says your name and the address they mailed the statement to, along with how much the mortgage interest is that you paid out. And sometimes it'll show as well mortgage insurance if it's paid through the mortgage company, or property taxes if it's paid for the mortgage company. So that's about all it shows on there right now. And one of the things that is difficult for tax preparers is that that's not enough information sometimes, especially if you're selling the house or exchanging property, doing any of that. So what they've done is they've said now they're going to add the additional information of showing the outstanding principal on the mortgage and the address of the property securing the mortgage and the mortgage origination date. So it'll tell us when you first took out a mortgage, how much money you still have left owing, and what the property address is of the mortgage on that mortgage statement. And that really helps. You may think, why would you need to have that? But there are people who own 3 or 4 or 5 different properties. Some they rent out or their relatives or whatever, investment properties. So it's really, really helpful, especially from a tax preparer standpoint, to be able to have that information on there. And it helps you because it tells you how much more money you still owe on your mortgage. And I know you can see it on the statement and stuff. Anyhow, that is some of the things that happened during our short-term highway funding extension that was passed through our Congress and President last week. Let's see, there was a IRS released a little thing called IRS Summertime Tax Tips. I always like it when they do that. They give us 10 things that you should be aware of during this summer to keep going on all your tax stuff. So it's kind of cool. And they listed 10 things in this particular one. One of them, which is very important, which I will tout now and I will tout at the end of the show and most every show going forward. It's August 3rd, people. It is August. Do not wait until your tax extension deadline is approaching to get your tax return done. Just because you got to that extension doesn't mean you have to wait till the last minute. And there are so many that do. And what ends up happening is there's no extension time after that. And your tax preparer may not have the time at the last minute to add you to the list. So get it done early. And also, why not get that stress off your shoulders? Bring your shoebox. Give your shoebox to your favorite Taxpectations tax accountant, and they will take care of your shoebox for you and get it off your shoulders. One thing that is very important, the IRS reminds us, if you move during the course of the year or from the last time that you filed a tax return, very important to always file your new change of address with the IRS. So they have a form that you can get. Go on the irs.gov and find the form, or call me, call one of your other tax people, and get that. Make sure that you do that change of address. Also, one of the things they put in those tax tips as well, very important to moi, is that if you are married on December 31st, yes, my son, you should be listening to this. If you're married on December 31st, the IRS considers you married for the entire year, and you must file married filing jointly. So if you're considering getting married, make sure that you check on your your W-4 information that you give to your employer to account for that, because married people pay less taxes than single people. Yes, one of the benefits of getting married is your taxes. My son, who is getting married on December 31st this year, that you need to check that on at work. Another thing, I loved this one. Okay, you remember I talked a couple weeks ago about the new law that they're attempting to pass to get gambling. So if you do a gambling winning, it's going to be less now than it used to be that they report to the IRS. The IRS is suggesting that you keep a gambling log. Yes, just like a mileage log, only you're going to write in it all the times you gamble and how much money you lost, how much money you won, how much money you spent, and all those other wonderful things. You should keep a gambling log. Now, one of the reasons they say to do this is supposed to benefit you. It's because if you win, so say you go to the casino this weekend and you win a $10,000 jackpot. If it turns out that you go to the casino every weekend and you've lost $20,000 to win that $10,000, then you can actually write off $10,000 of the loss, because as we know, you can only write off as much as you won. But if you don't have a log, if you don't have a way to prove how much money you put in to do that win, then you're not going to get it. So keep a gambling log if you're an habitual or regular gambler. Some people are. There are several states where gambling is legal, and you got to love the Indian reservations. If you're going to go out there, get a book, write it all down. Isn't that nice? And also, it'll help you understand where your money went. I digress. So we'll go back over here. Another thing, we talked about children. The summertime tax tips for children. Number one, day camps. If you're sending your child to a day camp and you actually have a job or are self-employed, if both the husband and wife are employed, you can write off the cost of the day camps for any children under the age of 13. Send them off to camp. Yay! They get to have fun, you get to have fun, and it is a tax write-off. Isn't that nice? Really, really nice. Next thing, if your kids are older and their day camp includes college, you can use the American Opportunity Tax Credit. You can claim that up to $2,500 annually for books and fees and all kinds of other things that you qualify for. And, of course, with any of these credits, there's always some sort of provisions or exceptions or rules and all that stuff. And, of course, as soon as you call me, I will explain all those to you. As well. So the American Opportunity Tax Credit, which is $2,500 annual that you can take for your child who's in college, $1,000 of that can be refundable. And that's really an awesome thing because sometimes you don't think that you qualify to file a tax return, or you are self-employed, and a lot of times self-employed people don't get refunds because they haven't put anything into the system. And in this case, $1,000 can be refundable out of that $2,500. So it's one of the few tax credits that you can actually get money even though you didn't pay in to the IRS. I mean, you paid into a lot of things, but not to the IRS. So that was another thing that was on our list of summertime tax tips. One other one that I wanted to mention was travel expenses for charity. A lot of people, especially I'm down in the southeast of America, and everybody loves a good cause. A lot of things that you are doing for charity you can write off on your taxes if you're putting money out. Expenses, if you're buying things for the charity, those are tax deductible. But your travel is also tax deductible. So if you're driving, you want to count mileage. If you flew somewhere or you had to stay in a hotel, any of those things, meals for charity, those all count as tax deductions. Keeping in mind that they have to be a charity that is listed on the IRS website as an approved charity. And also, disclaimer, make sure you understand any services you provide to a charity are not tax deductible. That's your charitable donation, and you have to, just chalk it up to charity. The travel, any out-of-pocket expenses you can write off. You cannot write off your services. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. So that was some of the IRS summer tax. It's really super cool, don't you think? I do. So I brought it up. Let's see. Read this really cool article this week called Death and Taxes. This woman, who was a CPA, by the way, she died a couple years ago. You might think it's interesting that she's writing a letter or be surprised that she died, but she was surprised as well when she submitted her tax return to the IRS, and they told her she was dead. So she had to go through the whole mess, and it took her, even a CPA, it took her many, many months to come back to the land of the living. They don't like to put in the fact that they made a mistake and you're not really dead. They assume that it was some sort of identity theft. And you have to go through all the processes. It's just a mess, which is kind of funny. She talks about the fact that she did a lot of research, and one of the things she discovered was that due to poor internal controls around how the Social Security Administration updates its death master file, there are 6.5 million Americans aged 112 years or older that still have active Social Security numbers. Yeah. So agencies, one thing you should always know is that government agencies all don't discuss stuff. They don't see each other. They don't talk about things. Their computer systems do not intertwine. She was going on about a lot of different things, and one of the things I thought was really interesting, you've heard about the IRS having budget cuts. Everybody's heard about it in the news. The budget cuts are getting worse and worse, and that's going to affect audits, which is something we're going to talk about next. But one of the things it does is it affects the customer service of the IRS. She wrote out that in 2014, here we go. As of March 7, 2015, 45.6 million taxpayers have tried to call the IRS for assistance. 4.2 million calls were answered. So 41 million calls were not answered. I mean, not answered. And I get calls at least 3 or 4 times a week, if not more, from people who said, well, I called the IRS to ask them a question. They never answered the phone. What do I do? Okay. So this is why it is very, 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 very important, in case you missed it, very, very important to have a tax professional on your side. Does not have to be a CPA, does not have to be an enrolled agent, but it does have to be a tax professional. Now, one of the other things in all of this that the IRS is doing is they're changing who they're going to allow you to represent at the in the IRS. And when I say represent, that means even in letters, in those kind of forms, not just necessarily in person. They are now saying that if you're a tax preparer and you have not passed the IRS, the EA exam, that you need to to pass the new AFRS tax test. Do that 3 times really fast. Anyhow, every year, if you're not passing that test, if you're not taking that program, then they won't even allow you to discuss a tax return that you have prepared yourself. So please make sure that you find someone who has taken that test, and they are all listed on the IRS website. If you go in and you look, you can look under name, you can look under zip code, area, whatever, so you can find a tax person. If you go, you will find me on that list because I take that test. I took the test last year. I intend on taking it this year and staying up to date. It also helps you to stay up to date with IRS tax law, and you really should have someone who does stay up to date with tax laws because they change constantly as they are changing. I mean, look at that. I've told you only about 3 changes this week, and this is this week. And I think I've said it before on my show, but I say it in most every single time I stand up and give seminars and talks to people, that there are an average of 1.5 tax law changes every single day. Now, that's to say that, for instance, the short-term highway funding extension changed how many tax laws? So, that's more than 1.5 that day. But just keep in mind it's really important to find someone like myself sit on the IRS website as someone that is in compliance with IRS tax law and will be able to represent you to the IRS properly. Dun, dun, dun. What? Let's see. Oh, that was that. Da, 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 da. We were going on and on. Okay, so we were going to talk about audits next. And the reason I wanted to talk about audits is because of the IRS budget cuts. We talked about the budget cuts and how difficult it is to get anybody to answer the phone. So all of the stuff rolls downhill, and they're talking about their audits. Now, the audit rate, the percentage of individuals' tax returns the IRS examine either in person or via correspondence fell to 0.86% last year. Okay, so less than 1% of all the individuals are going to get audited. Now, that's not to say you're going to get letters, they're going to ask you for information. This is when it comes down to the audit itself. So the audit itself is going to slow down as far as how many they're doing. What kind of things are they going to do? They're talking to especially people who have income from overseas. That's a really big thing. The more money you make, the bigger chance you have of getting an audit. There are several other ways and means and things that they look at. As I stated, they're really looking at small business owners that have payroll taxes as something that can trigger an audit, especially if you have payroll and a lot of high 1099s at the same time. That does it too. There are lots of different ways, and nobody can ever say what's actually going to trigger the audit or not trigger the audit. But the point of the matter is that They are cutting down on the number of audits that they are doing, but they're also finding that they're a lot more strict than they used to be. Now, the other thing that happened back in June, if you recall, I talked about it and I wanted to bring it up again, are the short time frame audits. The IRS, with its high caseload, is telling these workers to handle it, get it done, and get it over with. So you have less time now than you've ever had before. And the sad part is that sometimes your audit will be over before you read your mail. Really important to pick up your mail every day and read it, because you, in a lot of cases, will have 10 to 15 days tops to get the information to the IRS regarding your audit. If you're audited and they send you a letter. Now, a lot of times the audits are paper audits. They're all being done via the mail or fax, whatever it is. But if you can take care of it and get it done right away, the chances of going through an audit without a lot of extra cost is going to be awesome. However, if you do get the due date has passed, you then need to get somebody that can represent you, but you have to go to the United States Tax Court and petition to have the audit reopened in a lot of cases. So it is really, really a challenge and a difficult. You know, everybody likes to think if they just don't open that IRS letter, it'll go away. It doesn't. It really doesn't. So call on me, call someone, get it fixed, get it done, lessen your stress, and always, always, always be happy.
It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here, you can take a break. I'm a hot air balloon that could go to space. With the air, like I don't care, baby, by the way. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth.
I like that. Clap along if you feel happiness is the truth. Makes you want to clap, doesn't it? Get up, sing, dance, clap, etc., etc. You know, everybody wonders why this tax person is playing the happy song a lot. It's because that's my job. My job is to make you happy. My job is to take the stress out of your life and out of your day when it comes to your money. Bookkeeping, accounting, payroll, and taxes. Your job is to follow your dream and do the things that you enjoy doing. Run that business that you got started in because you so loved it and you want to be a success. The smartest person in the world isn't the one who knows everything, but the one who surrounds himself with others who know everything. And, well, you know, I may not claim to know everything about tax law. I probably know more than the average bear, a lot more. So give me a call anytime. We'll set up a consultation, and we'll discuss how I can ease the stress and take the stress away from you. So give me a call and find me on the internet, find me on the website, find me here, find me there, find me anywhere. Oh, Dr. Seuss, because that makes me happy too. Anyhow, I hope you all have a wonderful day, evening, morning, weekend, summer, winter, and beyond. You can find me here every week. Hope to see you again next week. Have a good day. Bye-bye.